Starting She Sense Racing was by far the biggest risk of my career. It was more work than I'd ever taken on, not just on the bike, but off it. And there was no guarantee that any of it would pay off.
Figuring out how to register for a World Cup, these were all really new experiences, and I just had really long days. I went to the first World Cup in Brazil, and our kits didn't come. So I raced in a black skin suit that we had iron-ons with my sponsor logos, and where I cut rainbow stripes off of a previous jersey and super glued them on. First race, I was 10th in the short track, and I just remember feeling like, okay, this is really working, everything's come together. And then I had 3 of the worst World Cups in the history of my career and finished the XCs like in the top 30s. I felt a lot of pressure coming out of those events. And I went to Europe for the next big block, and I kind of doubled down on my training. I had my kits, I had my bike, everything was starting to come together. I raced in Nova Mesto, and I had like a fine race. I was 21st. And then between that World Cup and the next one in Europe, I fell and broke my wrist. Cancel plans, fly home, get in to see a surgeon.
My arm was broken, so we did the right thing, and apparently I time traveled and now it's fixed.
And I would say at this point, the season was completely off the rails. I would drop out of the top 40 UCI ranking for the first time since I was 16. I slowly got back to training. I was training indoors 10 hours a week, and it was so hard. And I remember there was this one particular day that I had VO2 intervals on the indoor trainer. I actually stopped the workout. Said to myself, like, why am I doing this? And I kind of had this realization that in my mind, there was one vision of success. Success was start this program, make these promises to these sponsors, get the logos on my jersey, have this mission-oriented approach to sport. Return to my best as an athlete, get on a World Cup podium. I had just had this panic for so long of like feeling like I was getting further away from that track. And I think that day I had the realization that I was like really off track and that actually that wasn't my goal. I basically made the decision in that moment that I was willing to take a different approach for the second half of the season, and that the desire to get back as fast as possible to a World Cup start line, possibly before my wrist was ready, was not the right decision. And instead, I decided to race Leadville. It was further out. I had a few more weeks, and honestly, my physical therapist was really happy about that. The 5 weeks that I spent preparing for Leadville were some of the most fun weeks that I've had on the bike in the last 5 years. Leadville is 100 miles with over 10,000 feet of climbing. And the thing that makes it really special is that it all takes place at about 10,000 feet of elevation. I didn't know how I would feel in a race that was more than twice as long as any race I've ever done before. I didn't know how I would feel racing at an altitude higher than I'd ever participated in. Standing on the start line at Leadville at 6 a.m. and it just feels special. So we skied in a big group until the base of Columbine Climb. And I remember that's where, after that feed zone, I took a bottle, took gel, and just went to the pace that I believed I could hold. I broke away on that climb, getting to the top, turning around, not seeing anyone, and knowing I had a bit of a gap, descending, trying to recover as much as possible. And from that moment forward in the race, I knew I'd be alone for over 3 hours of racing. I knew that I needed to push the pace in order to stay away. I got to the last feed zone and then went to the power line climb, and that's when I just started completely deteriorating. down the last ascent of the climb, I finally got a time gap. I had a 7-minute gap. And at first and then I looked down and I realized I was at 6.5 hours. I was well under record pace. And that's when I just doubled down and really focused on giving everything I had till the finish. I have not been able to ride that way in many, many years. I outperformed my expectations for the first time in a race in a very long time. And that just meant a lot. And I had my entire family, my husband, my brother, childhood friends standing at the finish line. Leadville is just so crazy. No matter what position you finish in, like it's a real accomplishment. That felt really special to me. I had just gone from an altitude climbers course at around 7 hours to a world championship race that was expected to be an altitude climbers course, finishing in around 7 hours. This is one of the craziest courses I've ever seen. This might be lining up well for an opportunity to, go for it in Switzerland. And I would say that the course is even more formidable than it looks on paper. Around 77 miles and over 16,000 feet of climbing. So to put that in perspective, Leadville is 100 miles, but it only has about 12,000 feet of climbing. So it's less distance, more vert. There's about a 20-minute hiking section at 27% grade, where you gain about 900 feet of elevation. We're calling it the Portage of Positivity. Feels like it's the heart of mountain biking. It's a point-to-point, it's epic, there's these views, feels like the kind of adventure you'd go on with your friends. Also sharing it with my family. So my husband's here, my family's here. Regardless of what happens in tomorrow's race, this is just a really hard thing to do. I'm nervous and excited. Started before the sunrise in the town of Verbier. I saw an opportunity, I tacked, and I was alone again for the last 2.5 hours of the race. Climbing that last hour-long climb, I get to the portage section, I'm carrying my bike, and it was so hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. And I got to the top of that climb and started descending, and I had tears in my eyes and just felt like, wow, this was just this amazing moment in my life. And then I got a flat tire. About 20 minutes from the finish, before the most technical descent, that I had a noodle in the tire, and I spent the last 20 minutes of that race honestly probably doing some of the best technical riding I've ever done to keep the tire on the rim. One of the hardest races in my entire life culminated in pulling on the rainbow stripes for the second time in my career. Year one for She Sense Racing was a bit of a roller coaster. I don't think I could have predicted what happened or the directions that this year would take me in, the failures, the successes, and all of the learnings and mistakes that I would make along the way. But ultimately, it's been one of the most rewarding years of my career and my life so far. In 2026, I'm planning to follow not just a race calendar, but the feeling that I had in those marathon races this year.